Hello there, everyone. Thanks for tuning into Sin's Workshop. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. So today we are going to be doing my wrap up. Woo! I didn't quite read as many books as I wanted to with the holidays, and I guess you can kind of tell I'm still like really congested. I just get really sick this month, so I just didn't have the energy because my kid also got sick, my daughter. So it was a lot of taking care of myself and really taking care of, I always take care of my kids, but you guys know what I mean. And then work, and then, working from home. It was just like a lot. So, and then Thanksgiving. It was a lot. So I didn't really get to commit a lot of my relaxation time to reading like I normally do. But that being said, I did get to read 11 books this month, so I'm still really proud of that. And so let's just, hop into it. First book I read was The Flyer Lady. I cannot recommend this book enough, and I do at work, because I do work at Barnes & Noble, so I'm like constantly recommending this book. You want a Cinderella twist with a quasi love triangle? This is the book for you. Cinderella not only is a con artist, she's also a rebel. She's a rebel spy. I just wanted to say it like that. It's so good and unpredictable. And I'm pretty sure this is a debut novel as well from this author. And it's fast-paced. It's so absolutely amazing. I cannot recommend it enough. And then when you get to that ending, you're just like, well, that's sweet. It was really such a good book. Highly recommend it. If you like romance and you like a little espionage, and of course there's magic, there's fantasy in there. It's how she's able to win the prince's heart. She cheats, she uses magic. And yes, it is at the behest of her wicked stepmother. And you know what? Her wicked stepsisters aren't wicked at all. I quite love them. I really did enjoy the book, and I really do highly recommend it. After that, I read Loveboat Forever. I have not read any of the Loveboat Taipei books, for the record. I was gifted this one by the publisher. It was an ARC, and I was pleasantly surprised, especially because I saw the trailer for the new Paramount TV show, movie. I forget which, based on the first book in the series. And I was kind of intrigued. I was just like, oh, that looked kind of sweet and wholesome. I kind of want to look into that. And then I got this book from the publisher. I'm like, oh, well, this is great. This book really was a pleasant surprise. It's not something I would normally pick up. It's really kind of, it's contemporary. I usually read a whole lot of young adult fiction. Young adult fantasy or high fantasy or sci-fi. That's like me in a nutshell, clearly. Just look at my shelves. But I do like stepping outside my zone and reading contemporary every now and again. And romance is also not really... Gina, you've been a bad influence on me. Romance is also not one of the things I gravitate towards, but I really did enjoy this book and the characterization and the development and the romance that built up. And a lot of the core messages in the book. And no, you don't have to have read the first two books in the series in order to read this one, because it's about Ever's sister and her experience at Loveboat. So you don't have to have read or have any knowledge of the first two books, because I don't, in order to really enjoy this book. After that, I read House of Roots and Ruin by Aaron Craig. Oh my God. I'm not okay after that ending. It's such a good book. I need another book to follow this, because that ending was just like, my mouth was hanging open. I had to reread it to be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It was so good. So good. And I love House of Salt and Sorrows. And the fact that this is a follow-up to that, following the youngest sister, Verity. Oh, it was so good. It was so good. It was like intense. It was intense, and it was haunting, and it still had that wonderful gothic atmosphere. And you also, again, another quasi love triangle. Read this book. It was really good, especially if you love Edgar Allan Poe references, which I love Edgar Allan Poe references. So the fact that this is a continuation of what she did with book one, continuously referencing Edgar Allan Poe and just like letting it layer into her story atmospherically. Oh, it's beautiful. I loved it. After that, I listened as an audiobook, Skin of the Sea. I really did enjoy this book, but I think one of the hindrances for me is it does rely heavily on African myths and folklore. That's not a bad thing. You know, I enjoy learning about more outside of Greek mythology and Chinese mythology. I enjoy learning more mythology and folklore about other countries. It's really engaging. The problem is there's a lot of references to deities and mythological figures and beings that I was really unfamiliar with. So I think a little bit more context clues would have, I think it would have behooved me if I had physically read the books, because I think maybe that's where the audiobook kind of did a disservice to me, because I was absorbing the information differently. So I wasn't seeing the context clues that are probably there in the physical book. But I love mermaids. I think mermaids are awesome. I liked how it dealt with the slave trade, because it does deal with slavery and the slave trade. And I like how the author really went back into her roots, into her cultural roots, in order to really bring this story alive. Because representation, I do believe, matters, I do believe it matters, especially as, a Latin American woman myself. You don't really see a whole lot of Latin American princesses, a whole lot. So the fact that, we're really branching out and doing things like this, I think is worth noting. But, it does have a really nice, fresh mermaid take to it, which I thought was really unique. And again, another romance in here. I did like that friendship. And honestly, after reading this book, I want to know more about these gods and these deities. And I want to learn more about the myths and folklore surrounding this tale. So if anything, it just made me eager to read more. And I like that. I like when a book makes me want to read more outside of what I normally read. After that, Iron Flame. I did not love this book as much as I had hoped I would. I think you all remember my wrap-up from Fourth Wing. I love that book. That book was great to me. I thought it definitely deserved that hype. Iron Flame was so disappointing. I mean, I was like, woo, up here with Fourth Wing, and then I was just like kind of here with Iron Flame. That book really could have been split into two separate books. Personally, I wasn't a fan of the development of the relationship between Xaden and Violet. It seemed very toxic at times, and he was acting more like Dane in the first book, very controlling, instead of being the respectful guy he was in the first book, which is why I liked the first book, because yes, there's a romance in there, but he respects her. He doesn't treat her like she's some porcelain doll. And I know her life gets in danger a lot sometimes, and that kind of drives him a little crazy, but still, he stops respecting her boundaries. And also, Violet's whining for the first half of the book was so irritating to me. She's like, oh, I can't reveal the secret to my friends. She's like, oh, but Xaden was keeping secrets from me. It's just like the hypocrisy of it bothered the hell out of me. And I just wanted to tell her to grow up and stop whining and just stop being a whiny little pissant. I mean, she was all the things I loved about her in book one, her characterization, her strong empowerment, the fact that she really stops defining herself by her chronic illness and comes on top of it. It's like most of that was just kind of thrown out the window. And I think full review to come, I promise. It was disappointing to me. I was not in love with it the way I loved book one. Tell me what really happened. Ha! See? I finally got to that book. You watched my TBR from last month. I was determined to read it. And you know what? I was very glad I finally really was able to make that effort to read the book. It was so well done. It's done through police interviews. So you're getting 4 different sides of a story, and they each unveil things in a different way. And it's really cool to see 5 friends go into the woods, 4 friends come out. It's really interesting to see how the chain of events unfolded for all of them, you know? And you're really getting to see what happened. You're getting really to the truth of it. So it's really interesting to see it told through hindsight and police interviews, because they're all just retelling, you know, like, oh yeah, this happened, but in a really engaging narrative. What the River Knows. This was the Young Adult Book Club pick for November. As the Young Adult Book Club host, I kind of had to read this book. And you want to know something? I really wanted to like this book more than I did. I loved all the side characters. I liked the plot. I liked the story. I liked the setting. My biggest hiccup with this book was Inez. I think a lot of authors, when they think, oh, I have to write a strong female character, they've kind of started to go into this trap of, oh, in order to make a female character strong, she has to be stubborn, she has to be argumentative, and she has to fight men at every stance. And you know what? I'm not here for that. There are a lot of different ways you can write a strong female character. And I don't think our femininity, personally, is something that should be viewed as a weakness. Because, I mean, you can use your feminine wiles in a lot of dangerous ways. You don't have to be constantly argumentative. You don't have to be constantly stubborn. She just doesn't listen, Inez. She doesn't listen. She can't get her head out of her butt. And it's really kind of obnoxious to kind of see the same formula. Oh, strong female character has to be stubborn and argumentative, stubborn and argumentative, stubborn and argumentative. I'm kind of over it. And I say that as a Latin American woman who is very stubborn and somewhat argumentative. But I also don't shy away from looking, you know, very feminine. I quite love it. So I'm kind of over that trope. I don't think it really does a service to, you know, the female community as a whole. And also, you know, it just doesn't make Inez likable, because as you're reading the story, a lot of things could have been avoided. It's just like, well, if you had just sat down and listened to these people, like, you got on a boat, you're going to Egypt by yourself, you have no idea how to navigate Egypt, you don't even know the language. So yes, your uncle wants to send you home because he has to go on an excavation dig. He can't spend his time babysitting you. And yes, he has to babysit you because, again, you do not know how to navigate the land. There are so many things that could have been avoided if she had just listened to people. Even when she does get her way, she still wants to argue, and she still wants to be stubborn, and she still doesn't want to listen, and it is the most irritating thing in the whole wide world. A full review to come, but it was just, am I going to read book 2? Yes. Did I like this book? It was okay. Yeah, I would give it 3.5 stars just because I liked everything else about the book except her. After that, I read The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue. Let me just tell you, this book was beautiful. I understand the hype for this book. It broke my heart. It made me feel things. It made me laugh. It made me want to cry. It made me happy. It made me sad. It was truly it was just beautifully written. You know, the way the author just goes back in time to recount her life, and, you know, these pitiful moments, because she's been alive for 300 years, to just go back in time and capture these pivotal moments that impacted her identity and impacted how she chose to live her life. It was just truly beautiful, and I can't recommend this book enough. I'm so glad I got to read it for my book club. I'm so glad everyone voted for it. It really was truly a beautiful and breathtaking book and deserves all the recognition it gets. I mean, I was talking to my coworker about it and my eyes started to water because I'm just like, oh my God, this book makes me emotional because it's so beautiful. And after that ending, that was another like, you're breaking my heart here, but so good. After that, I read All That Consumes Us by Erica Waters. Erica Waters is a Bram Stoker Award winner for young adult fiction. This book was good. I have read another book of hers, Ghostwood Song. So, oh my God, she really is very good at her storytelling. It's very eerie. It's very atmospheric. It's another one of those truly gothic kind of feels to it, somewhat dark academia almost. And it really just focuses on what the price is for brilliance. Like, what are you willing to give up to be world-renowned scientist, world-renowned artist, world-renowned author? What are you willing to give up to be known as the top person in your field, you know? And it's just, there's a lot of unsettling things. And she's being haunted. And maybe there's possession. And there's a lot of plot twists that I didn't see coming either. It was really, and then there were some plot twists that I kind of did see coming. It was really an eerie read. And I can't thank the publisher enough for giving me an ARC of this book. It was chilling. It was really well done, honestly. After that, I read Dragons of Fate. Dragonlance. Oh my God, this book was so good. I need the third book and I need it now. If you watched my review for book 1, Destina was not my favorite character, but then again, she is the daughter of a Solomonic Knight, and Solomonic Knights are not my favorite characters. I mean, Sturm, he is my least favorite of the companions ever since I read Dragons. He's just so stiff and self-righteous, and he's just like moral. He is lawful good, basically. Lawful good. Jesus, he's such a stick in the mud. And Destina is a lot like that in book 1, which is why I wasn't a huge fan of her, but I did love the story. Here, she's really coming into her character. She was no longer a stick in the mud. I really did see a whole lot of characterization from her, especially because she has to interact with the Raceland, Tasselhoff, and Sturm. But they get sent back in time, and now they meet Huma, and they meet Gwyneth, the silver dragon he falls in love with, and it's just like, oh my God, what are you guys doing to the time stream? It's just so well done. It's so well done. I can't stress it enough. I love this book so much. Dragons of Fate. I mean, clearly I love Dragonlance. Clearly. I got it tattooed on my arm. It was so good. I need book 3. I need book 3 now. I need it yesterday, especially after that ending. That ending was so good. You have no idea how good that ending was. And I'm just like, what? It was so good. It was amazing, actually. I loved it so much. All right. And the last book that I read of the month was Medusa's Sisters. This is a reimagining of not just Medusa's myth, but also her sisters, the other 2 Gorgons. How did they become Gorgons? And yes, it does show Medusa's life. It shows her birth. It also shows, her rape by Poseidon. And why she was cursed by Athena. It was a really, really good book. I mean, following Steno and I can't pronounce her name. Eureli? I can't pronounce her name. But following the lives of these 2 sisters, Medusa's 2 older sisters, and you're focusing on the complexities of sisterhood and sisterly love. And it was just, you have Semele in here, you have Orion in here. Oh, God, it really was just a breathtaking story about family and identity and sisterhood and familial love, and it was just so well done. Excellent book. I can't recommend it enough. Excellent book. So yeah, those are the 11 books I read this month. You know, pretty much for the most part, everything I read was amazing, and I loved it. It was a really good month for me. There are only two, I think, like 2 books I was like meh about, but for the most part, it was an amazing month for me as far as reading, and I was very, very, very happy and very pleased. So in any case, thank you all for tuning in to this November reading wrap-up. Please don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with all your book-loving friends. And on that note, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day. As always, happy reading.